Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to get us started this morning. Today's event is the Rails Online Roundtable Passport Services. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. Today, we're going to hear from Kim Murphy from Prospect Heights Public Library. She's going to do a short presentation for us, and we're also going to have some time for questions. So please save those. You can actually put them into the Q&A section, and I'll show you how that works in a second here. Okay, so again, today's event, we'll do quick introductions and welcome. I will introduce a couple other topics that I want to mention. We're going to do a poll before Kim starts, and I'll launch that in a second. And then we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A. That will happen right after Kim's presentation, and then I'll come back and do a conclusion and wrap up. Okay, so a couple of things I just want to mention. So if you're here, it's obvious that you're interested in passport services. So one of the things we have that we're looking to do is to create a passport services email list. And I know there's been some discussions on the reference, the Rails reference email list. I appreciate everybody that's participated knows. We thought it would be a good idea to move those onto their own list. Unfortunately, that has been postponed a little bit. We are currently still working on the Rails L2 project. That is taking up a lot of our time, so it's been delayed, but please look for this soon. I think by mid to late September, we'll be able to launch this, and this would be a great place to kind of talk about ideas for what your library is doing, how you're restarting or starting passport services, kind of the nitty gritty and a place you can sort of turn to for more information on this type of thing. We thought that there's enough conversation and chatter going on that reference email list that we really probably could necessitate its own list for passport services. So we're excited about that. We had hoped originally this would be sort of the launch pad for that email list, but again, it's been delayed a little bit. We apologize for that. Another thing I want to remind everybody about is the census 2020. We are in crunch time with the census, as you all know. And I know a lot of you are working hard on this and getting messaging out there to patrons and users. We really appreciate that. Rails has a huge vested interest in making sure that Illinois gets as many people counted as possible. And last time I looked, we're doing okay. Our self-response rates are around 70%. That's higher than the national average for states, but we're a little bit lower than other states like around us, like Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan. So we want to bump that up. We want to boost that up. So we really, we're trying to give you as many resources as possible. A couple of things I want to suggest. So there is an email list for the Census 2020. You can find that on the Rails email lists. We have a bunch of downloadable social media content. Last month, we actually did a online roundtable, much like this one, and we had 3 libraries present what they were doing around the Census 2020, and that's available from the Rails YouTube page. It's also linked on that Rails Census 2020 Pulse page. So check that out. All that is available. Again, if you go to the Rails home page, there's a button that says Census 2020, and that is all the information on there. That graphic right there that you're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen, that comes from some marketing or promotion guide that was created by a marketing firm for agencies around Illinois, and they did a great job, and you can actually download all of those things, again, from that Rails Census 2020 Pulse page. So please go ahead and do that when you have time. An online roundtable that we have coming up, and this is coming up in a couple weeks, using data in libraries. My colleague Grant Halter is the Rails data analyst, and he is just a whiz at sort of explaining how to collect, how to disseminate, how to display data for your library. He's done a bunch of consultations for libraries around Rails so far, and he's going to talk about best practices, what you need to know. Maybe you're already doing this stuff. He's going to show you some kind of tips and tricks for that sort of thing. So this is going to be a fun event. I'm really looking forward to it. I've talked to Grant a lot about this. So registration is available. It's on L2. It's a Zoom event, and so please take a look out for that and join us. Okay, so before I turn it over to Kim, I'm going to launch this poll. So bear with me a second. Okay, so launching poll. Okay, so the question is, which of the following best describes the reason for your participation today? And we have 3 options. One is my library would like to start a new passport service. One is my library is an existing passport facility interested in focused discussion on reopening. And the last one is I don't know, not sure. And that's a totally decent option. Please feel free to use that. But I'll give people, looks like 20 seconds. I'll give people probably about 20 more seconds to answer this. And then when I'm done, I'll release the results so that everyone can see it. So it looks like a good percentage of you have already voted. I'll give you 10 more seconds. Okay, all right, and I'm ending poll and sharing the results. The results are kind of what I thought. It's a good mixture of people. Looks like some want to start the new. About 30% said they want to start a new passport service. About 50% of you said we have an existing passport services, but we don't know what we're doing, or we're looking to figure out how to reopen it. And then you know, a good percent of you said I don't know, just caught my fancy. So. At this point, Kim, I'm going to turn it over to you. Kim Murphy is the head of adult services at Prospect Heights Public Library, and she is going to take over from here. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the results. And Kim, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and you should be able to launch your screen.
Excellent. Well, I was kind of surprised at the results because I have been soliciting all of you passport agencies in the Illinois area. Please don't leave me hanging during this roundtable. Please join me. So I knew I was kind of rallying the troops. So, you know, I know we have a whole bunch of people that I did ask Dan to start a listserv for us, like he mentioned, because we all are going a little crazy right now with this COVID. So we're not quite sure how to start. We're not quite sure how to start anything, actually. You know, even library services have been kind of crazy for us as well. So this is an interesting time for all of us. So I am going to quickly go over, and I hope I don't bore those of you who are already agencies. I'm going to go over a little bit about how to become an agency, but I also want to let everybody know right now that I did invite our Chicago customer manager from the U.S. Department of State, and he is an attendee today with us. Because I thought, what better source of information than the actual customer manager that takes care of all of us who are agencies. So I'm imagining Terrence Madigans is the current customer service manager for the Chicago agency, and the Chicago agency oversees more than just the Illinois. I don't have my book with me, Terrence, to go over what states we do. I think you do Michigan and Wisconsin and more than Illinois. It's a big range. We'll go over that in just a second. But so I'm going to quickly go over how to become an agency, but I'm going to stick this as a caveat. I suspect that they are probably not approving new agencies at this point. So if you're excited about becoming a passport acceptance facility, this is still going to be the procedure, but the approval might not happen for a while, and we can do a question and answer with Terrence about that after I do my little brief presentation. So let me just start by sharing my PowerPoint. And I just want to give a little bit of information about myself as well. So I started working at the Ela Area Public Library back in 1999. And someone attended ALA, and the U.S. Department of State was there soliciting people to become passport services. The Ela Area Library had just done a renovation, or I shouldn't say a renovation, we did a brand new building. They have a brand new 70,000 square foot building. And the departments all were getting new tasks. And the information desk, which is what I managed at the time, was kind of not as busy as we had been before. So we were sort of looking for something to do. And I'm sure all the people who work at ELA now are probably cursing me every day of their lives because they are one of the biggest passport services in the Chicagoland area now. Luckily, many of us have started services, so they're not out there by themselves. But so I started services at the Ela Area Public Library in 2003. I left there, went to Colorado, came back, and as soon as I came back and started working in Illinois again, the first thing directors wanted me to start was a passport service. So I've been doing this a long time. So let me just start by going through my PowerPoint presentation here. Why in the heck would you want to become a passport facility? the biggest thing that most libraries consider is that it's a little extra cash on the side, that you don't have to worry about asking for a tax levy. You don't have to increase any taxes to your community. Every passport application that you process, you get an execution fee of $35, and that is something that the library gets to keep. And obviously it's kind of found money, I like to say, so you can spend it any way that you'd like to. The second reason, which is a great reason as well, is it's convenient for your patrons. Now, I'll caveat this with the passport agency does look at where other facilities are. So that's part of the reason and part of the decision making on whether they accept you as a facility or not. They look to see how close other facilities are to your facility, and they don't want to inundate any one area with too many passport facilities. So they want to make sure there's enough of them out there, but they don't want them all clustered. So one of the things that we were rejected, and I'll go through this PowerPoint, here at Prospect Heights, I was rejected 4 times. I became accepted when our post office here in Prospect Heights decided to discontinue the service. So that's when the passport facility, the U.S. Department of State, decided there was now a void in our community and needed a facility to be opened.
Hey, Kim, can I just
Yeah.
jump in here? And we can't see your PowerPoint, so just
Oh,
kind of
you
make sure
can't.
that.
Oh, hold on. Let's see why not. Let's try to share that again.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go.
Perfect.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it.
Okay, okay, hold on. Okay.
Yep, perfect.
Perfect. Okay, okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem.
And so I was starting to say, so it's convenient for your patrons. One of the compliments that we get constantly here at our library is because when a child needs to get a passport from the day they're born. If a child is going to travel anywhere, from the moment that they come into the world, they need a passport to travel somewhere. And they need to get those renewed every 5 years. So little kids do not like going to the post office. It's pretty dang boring in the post office. So one of the things that they love is come into the library, because we can hand them a book, we can give them a puzzle, we can give them something else to do while mom and dad are doing all the boring paperwork that is involved with passports. And one of the things that we love to do is convince them that while they're here, see all these great things you have, why don't you go get your library card, or why don't you register your card from your home library with us? And then, of course, this also rolls into it's good publicity. It's a good customer service thing. It's a nice service that we can provide to our community. So it's just a nice thing to do if you can get approved to do it. So some statistics. Now these are old, but in 2015, the U.S. Department of State has issued almost 16 million passports, and almost 7.9 million of them were done at places like libraries. The demand is going to continue to go up, and at the time of the statistics that I got from the Department of State back in 2015, there were 9,000 passport facilities throughout the US, and 700 of them are located here in the Chicago area. Oh, here's my map that I was talking about earlier. So like I mentioned, I do have Terrence Madigans online with us today. He is overseeing the Chicago agency, which oversees all the applications coming from Wisconsin and Indiana. So if you can imagine, that's an awful lot of applications just coming through the Chicago facility. And you can kind of see the color blocks. They only have so many agencies overseeing certain states. And I'm sure that they organize this a little bit by population. But so Chicago, we're lucky to be in this area, because as a passport, I was in Colorado for a while, and our agency was in Denver, and it was a lot less convenient for me to be an agent there to communicate with my agency in Denver than it is here in the Chicago area, because it's just a little closer to me from my job. So if you are going to try to apply to become a passport facility, you must be a public sector entity, which of course we all are as public libraries. And any of the agents that you want to have taking applications must be 18 years or older. They must be US citizens or nationals. They have to be a permanent employee. So you can't use volunteers for this position. They have to be someone being paid by the library. They cannot have a criminal record with parole or probation, or misdemeanors, felonies, and all the other little legalese there that I have on the screen. So things to consider if you're going to become a passport agency. Decide what department is going to be in charge of this. Some libraries use their circulation department. Some libraries use, we use our reference department because we are a small library. Some libraries have other departments. When I was at ELA, we had a department called Information Services. So that was not reference, it was we were answering the phones and registering people for programs and things like that. So we decided that was something that they could do. Someone in the building has to be the acceptance program manager. I am the program manager here at Prospect Heights, and I was when I was at ELA as well. You want to make sure that you have a good place to take passports. You want to make sure that you're doing it in an area that you're affording some privacy to people. They are giving you all of the information about them. They're giving you social security numbers, they're giving you their addresses, they're giving you their height, they're giving you their eye color, they're giving you where their address is, they're giving you their birth certificate, their naturalization papers. So you want to make sure that everything that they're giving to you, you can get in a private area and not have big long conversations or loud conversations with a lot of people being able to overhear. You need to have someplace that you can lock the applications when you're doing them, because like I just said, you're getting a lot of private personal identity theft worthy information that you want to make sure you keep locked up until it's ready to get mailed off to where it's going. You are going to be accepting payments, so you need to be able to keep a place to store the money that you will be receiving for these applications. And then you also need to keep all the necessary equipment that you're going to need to be an agency. So you will be getting passport application forms. We have envelopes here, our stamp. You just have a lot of stuff that I'll go into for that you'll need to do passport applications. And then of course decide what hours you're going to do applications. I think the majority of facilities that do applications that I'm aware of, we start usually when we open the library, but that's a decision that you need to make. If you need a little time to get ready in the morning and don't want to start exactly when your library opens, you can do that. And we've decided, most of us, to close before the library closes, because there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be tightened up before you send everything off for the day. So if you have closing procedures, you don't want to also have to worry about the passport materials being put on the wayside, because they're important as well. So when you become a facility, the Department of State will provide you training. We can go to the Chicago agency, which is another nice thing that they're so close to us, and do in-person training. And then they also give us web-based training. We are required to take training every year. So I try to do a combination of sending my people downtown to take the training, or they will also have other sites for training. One year I actually had them come and they did training here at my library. So they will do training in different places throughout the state, but you can also do your training online. You will also have support from your agency, like we have Terrence here today to talk to us. We have a private phone number that just agencies get that they can call and ask for questions. We can order any of the forms and booklets and things that we need for free from the Department of State, and they send them to us. That includes the next thing I have there called the PARG, which is our reference guide. They give you multiple copies of that if you decide. We get newsletters and updates, and I'm going to share that for our other agencies in a few minutes. They have been doing monthly ones until COVID happened. So we really have a great customer service group right now in Chicago, and they're doing regular newsletters for us. So we're getting updates pretty regularly from them. They invite us to other outreach events, and you're always welcome to arrange a visit to go down and see how passports are done at the Chicago agency. Now again, caveat, this was all before COVID. I'm sure these things will come back eventually. So if you decide you want to try to become a passport facility, you're going to send a letter to the passport acceptance facility address. And I've put that up on the screen, and I can send that out to you if you're interested. Like I said, I don't know if they'll be doing any for a while. But so my letter I just posted there, it's probably pretty small, you probably can't see it, but it's very basic. All I just said was, we're interested in providing this service to our community. Please consider us as a location to accept passports, and thank you for your consideration. This does need to come from probably your director. They want to make sure that the owner of the facility or the overseer of the facility is aware that you're requesting this as something you'd like to do at your facility. So this was my first rejection letter sent to my director saying thank you for your interest, but they have decided right now that they don't need me. So thanks, but no thanks. And then finally, I got the letter saying that I've been approved. Once we've been approved, we get our certificate of designation, which I've posted there, and we're ready to start taking applications. So we're ready to go, but we need to do some training. So this is when I start getting my agents that I'm going to do, who are going to be doing this, trained. So they go and either I assign them to go to a facility downtown or another training session. Those sessions are usually sent to us through the newsletter. We'll get a list of different places that are doing training. We also are regularly in contact by email. So you will get emails from the Department of State once you're made a facility letting you know about upcoming training. But again, as I said, you can also do training online. So I like to do a combination of both. I think that it's good to go to in-person training because you get to play off of other people like this roundtable, where you get to hear questions and concerns that other agencies are having when they started their facilities, or things that they've had problems with when taking applications. So my agents kind of do, every couple years, they'll go to an actual facility and do the training. So the steps I have here, so you need to get training. You're going to have to decide how you're going to be mailing back the applications. And by that, I mean, you have to decide what kind of, what we do at Prospect Heights is we order prepaid priority mailing envelopes from the post office. We can get them 200 at a time. And again, those are prepaid. So I have 200 prepaid envelopes, and that's how I mail back the applications. When I was at ELA, we actually put them into our priority mailing envelopes and put them on our postage meter and paid. And that was kind of crazy because sometimes they weighed more and it was more expensive. And that was years ago as well. But you also need to know where you're going to be storing the applications. So every day that you take applications, you need to be able to store those somewhere private, safe, and locked before you package them up to mail them off. We mail ours off every evening. You are also required as a passport facility to store 2 years of records of the passports you've taken. So the passport agency requires us to do something called a transmittal. A transmittal lists the name of the person that you took an application for, their date of birth, their phone number, and what kind of application they applied for. You send one of those off in the mail, and then you store one. And we have had times where the passport agency has called us and said, I need you to go back and find your transmittal, and I need you to fax it to us. We're having a question about some application that you took a couple months ago, or like I said, it can be up to 2 years. I talked a little bit about supplies in the past. One of the things that's kind of an odd thing, but the passport agency requires you to have glassine envelopes. That is what you return old passport cards in. And so those I found the best source for those. People who collect stamps use those sort of envelopes a lot. So I use a stamp company to buy those. You have to get a passport stamp, and I'll go over that in a little bit. And then I also have brown envelopes, because if your library decides to take hand carries, which I'll go over in a little bit, you need to have a brown envelope that you're going to put those in. And then you're also going to have to decide how you're going to keep track of the money that you're taking in. As I mentioned earlier, you do take $35 per application. You need to decide if you're a facility that can accept credit cards, then you can do it that way. We are not, so we only accept checks or money orders. So you have to figure out how you're storing the checks or money orders that you're keeping for the library. Again, I kind of talked about the training, so you have to do the training. I've noticed that new passport agent training can take up to 8 hours. If I give someone like this space that I'm in right now and just lock them in this room for a full day shift, they can usually get that done. Luckily, the online test, you can take it over and over again until you pass, but you do need to pass it in order to continue to be an agent. I did mention this earlier, you do need to take this training every year. Every year we reapply to be a facility to make sure that we're still interested in being a facility, and then we give them all the passport agents that have completed their training that will be continuing to accept passport applications for the next year. And so we fax that to them every year. I scan and email it to them every year to let them know. So I just kind of put the link up on for the training for passport agents. So this is what it looks like when you go into the passport agent training module. You get a username and password, and then you go through the training questions. So here are just a few things that we've found that we need as a passport facility. You need to have a passport seal. I think I'll show you that in a few minutes. That has your location on it and your zip code. Passport applications need to be filled out in black ink. So that's why I say you need lots and lots of black pens, because as we know, pens tend to wander off. So we order a lot of black pens. Everything on a passport application is being stapled for the most part. So it's good to have good staples, staple removers. You're going to need a way of keeping track of, oh, and I spelt this wrong, I'm sorry, routine applications. So routine applications are applications that people pay the basic fee for, and they can take an extended period of time to get processed. And then I have a separate location for my expedited applications, which during COVID right now, the passport agency is not taking expedited applications, but in normal times you can pay a fee to speed up the processing for your applications, and all facilities have the ability to provide both routine and expedited applications. I've talked about this over and over again. You want a locked place to store these completed applications because there's a lot of private information on them. You want to have envelopes to mail these applications out at the end of the day, and the Department of State prefers priority mailing envelopes, and so I believe you can send them in anything, but that's their preference. They do prefer them be flat and big, so they don't want you folding up applications. You need to make sure you send out applications completely flat as possible. You will need mailing labels to make sure you're sending them to the correct routine or expedite location. I recommend a shredder. Lots of people come in, we have lots of people that'll come in with their passport application filled out in blue pen. Well, that's unacceptable. So a lot of times with their permission, we'll say, would you like me just to shred this, or do you want to take it back? So if they make mistakes in applications, we have a paper shredder so that we can destroy those. You do need lots of paper clips, regular size and jumbo paper clips for putting together applications. Transmittal forms are something you'll get from the Department of State, so you can just print those out on demand. That's very simple. I recommend having some calculators, unless you're very good at math, to be able to add up processing fees and things like that. If you're not going to be taking your money through a cash register, I strongly suggest having a locked cash box. We have one that has a combo on it because it's locked in a drawer with a key. And so I wanted, if you got into the place with the key, I didn't want the key to be the same way you got into the cash box. So my cash box is a combination. Again, I mentioned the glassine envelopes that you use for stamps. I found that we need a tape measure because lots of people, part of the application is to say how tall people are, and a lot of times they don't know or they didn't measure their children. So we'll have a tape measure so people can measure how tall their children are. I keep a calendar so that if someone wants to can't decide between a routine or an expedited application, I'll take the calendar and I'll say, okay, well, right now routines are running 8 weeks. So if we count from this date, 8 weeks out, it will be this. Would that be acceptable? Or do you think it'd be better to pay the expedite fee, which will be 3 weeks, and then you'll be more comfortable getting your passport on time? We personally have created receipts. This is not a requirement, but our bookkeeper here wanted us to have a receipt for keeping track of the money that we were taking in for auditing purposes. And then I also strongly recommend a way of controlling a waiting list. We have found that we get very, very busy on weekends. And so we, we open our doors at 10 here. We're lucky we don't open till later. And so you'll have a line sometimes outside the door waiting to come in to do passports. So having a way of controlling who's first, who's second, who's third to get their applications completed. So this is an example of what a transmittal looks like. It's the same transmittal that we'll use for both routine and expedites. You can see on the top, you would just mark whether it's a routine or an expedite. And we mark on there, like I said before, the name of the applicant, their date of birth, their phone number, and then what sort of thing they applied for. If they applied for a book, if they applied for a card, if they paid for extra services. And this is what we need to keep for 2 years. It's a single sheet of paper, so it doesn't take up a lot of room. But when you have 2 years worth, if you get to be a busy facility, that can be a lot of paperwork because you can only put 7 applicants' names on these at a time. So storing these can take a little bit of space. So for us here at Prospect Heights, we have our adult services staff, and because we're small, our adult services department includes the reference people, the reader services people, and our security staff. I have made the choice to not take appointments at our facility, and I'm still sticking to that with pre-COVID. I had conversations with many post office that said that the appointment method just was very frustrating to them. They had lots of people that would make an appointment and then just not show up, or they would show up really early and expect them to drop everything and take them, or they would show up late and say, well, I had an appointment an hour ago, can't you take me? So I decided that I would not even bother with appointments to worry about backing things up or to schedule someone. This is what the post office does. I think they schedule someone based on their appointments, and that really throws things off if people don't show up for their appointments. So I just make sure that I have an agent here all the hours that I'm offering services. So back before all the craziness happened, our library is open from 10 to 9 Monday through Thursday. So I close services an hour before the library so that I can get everything packaged up and ready to go. Here at my library, I have 12 staff members who are trained to take passport applications. I generally have one working all the time, but since my whole entire department is trained, if we get really busy, I can have any one of them jump up and take on those roles. And as I said, on the weekends, sometimes I can have up to 2 to 3 people taking applications to make sure we get everyone taken care of. So this is what my passport facility looks like before COVID. Just a desk. You can see on my desk I have my calculator, my staple remover. The little blue box there is our name stamp, and then the little green box is the stamp that is our seal for the library. And that's the locked box that I use, my gray file folder there. And the big black box next to it is where I keep my 2 years of transmittals, and that's also locked. We created receipts. We decided when we created receipts, we would just have all the information on the receipts. So when we make they're carbon receipts, so we can give a copy to the customer as well. Because I figured if I was filling it out, I might as well give something for them. So I don't know if you can see this very easily, but I listed all the fees on there. So I have the $80 for a minor passport, $110 for an adult, the passport cards, the expedite fees, and all that stuff. So we keep the white copy and we give the customer the yellow copy. Down below, you can kind of see for the expedite fee, I keep track of either whether they paid me in cash or check and what the check number is. And then again, that's for my auditing purposes. So we just created some basic old homemade waiting list cards. And one of the things we discovered that's a good way to kind of do some advertising in the building. So while they're waiting, the front side says what order they're in, and and just kind of reminds them to make sure that they're ready when we call them by having their application filled out, having the photos, the birth certificates, and things like that. And then the back side, we kind of highlight a few things that they can be doing while they're waiting. So we let them know that their card is good here at the library, that they can sit and read a magazine, they can go hang out in our children's department, they can go onto the computer. And we're such a small library that this is probably annoying to other patrons, but when we're ready, we just kind of walk around and look for our yellow cards and sometimes even yell out, waiting list person number 2, number 3, we're ready for you. So this is old information, but when we started, so we started our facility in 2016. And we took 710 applications that year. So we started in July. So from July to December, we did 710 applications. So that brought in $17,000 to our library. And then in 2017, you can see we really jumped up in March and April. That year was our biggest year so far, where we took in 1,100 plus applications and brought in over $102,000. Now, somewhere in here, and I didn't mark it, when we started in 2016, the fee that we were accepting was only $25. And at some point, and I don't remember what year it was, they changed the fee to be $35. So that also reflects how much more money we may have made because we were taking in $10 additional for every application that we took. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation as far as becoming a facility. Did anybody have any questions, or does
Hey,
Terrence,
Kim, yeah.
do you even want to say anything about what I said?
Kim, we got a bunch of great questions coming in the Q&A, and Terrence, please feel free to jump in here if you want to answer any of these. But I'm going to start off with one of the first ones, and actually this is more of a question I think maybe for the crowd. So if you have an answer, you can type it into the chat box. That I would appreciate that. But question comes from Kristen. It says, "What are other libraries doing to quarantine applications, transmittals, money, and other supplies that are used that came in contact with the public?" Kim, do you have an answer
Well,
for
actually,
that?
that was going to be my next portion of this presentation, is to talk about, now you're a facility, how are we handling things now, COVID? So we can address that now, or we can, I don't know if there's other questions.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so at our facility, I'm going to take off, hold on here. So at our facility, for one thing, we're not getting nearly as many applications as we used to. So what we are doing is we've always stored our applications just in a drawer. And so those just sit in the drawer. So I guess as far as quarantining goes, that's pretty much all we're doing, is they sit in the drawer till they get packaged. I'm not quarantining them for any kind of extended period of time. I don't know what other libraries that are doing this, or if they've started what they're doing.
It looks like, so Jane says nothing. I don't think you can quarantine anything.
Yeah. It's mostly paperwork, and I mean, I know libraries are quarantining books and things like that, but.
Yeah. Okay, this question is for Terrence. Terrence, Kristen asks, if possible, is it urgent for current passport facilities to begin processing again?
Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Good morning.
The answer to that question is no, it's not urgent. It's totally up to the facility. If you guys, like a lot of facilities have been doing, just emailing us if you're already an acceptance facility, and just letting us know if you want to prolong your closing process, or when you decide to reopen, just send us an email, because what we're doing on our end, we're keeping a track of all the facilities, and we have to send those facilities once they're updated to our headquarters. So that's fine. It's totally up to you.
All right, thank you, Terrence, and thank you for joining us on such short notice. We really appreciate you coming today and providing answers.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, Lisa asks, how are you working with the mask requirement in Illinois? And this is probably more for Kim and other folks. We need to see applicant faces. Do you have a different space in your library to do this, more socially distant? Is there anyone taking photos currently as well? This question, if you have an answer for this question, you can type it into the chat box. Just make sure you're choosing the all panelists and attendees option in the to field so that everybody can see it. But that's a great question, Lisa. Thank you.
So I don't know if you can see, I did put a picture of what our facility looks like now. I have one of our agents there. So we have a big shield up and we are wearing masks. We also have shields ourselves. So sometimes we'll wear the masks and the shields. As far as the applicants go, we do have them quickly pull down their mask so we can compare their photograph to their face, and then we ask them to pull their mask back up. We also have a study room that we haven't been letting the general public use the study room, but we will occasionally, we have a table in our study room with a shield similar to what I have on the screen, and we will have the family come into the study room. We'll stand behind our acrylic shield with our face mask on, and we'll put the family on the other side of the shield. And again, we'll just have them one at a time pull their face mask off, compare their face to their photo, and then ask them to put it back up. We have never taken pictures at our facility, so that's something that we haven't done. We always encourage them to go. Walgreens is only 2 blocks away, so we encourage them to go there. I'm not quite sure how they're handling things, but we're getting pictures, so they're probably doing the same thing. Pull off your mask and we'll take your picture.
Yeah, and I want to acknowledge this question because I think it's a great one. It's from Anonymous. It says, what departments process passports in your libraries? Adult services, patron services, circulation. A bunch of people, different answers. Some people say circulation, some people say info desk, reference, circulation, across departments. So thank you for everyone that jumped in on that one. I really appreciate it. I think it really depends on your library and who's available. So I know Kim, you mentioned your approach, so I appreciate that as well.
It can be a time suck. I will be very honest with you. If you end up being what we consider a successful facility, you could be doing these nonstop. So you want to make sure that whoever in your department, whoever in your library is going to be doing this, they're not tasked to do 1,000 other jobs, because this is a job that I constantly am telling my agents, when you're working on an application, you need to have blinders on and you are working on that application. You are not answering the phone. You are not telling someone where the bathroom is. You're not doing anything but focusing on working with that passport application. It's too important. It is too much private information. You have to be focused. It's only fair to you as the agent to do it properly, and to the person you're working with to making sure that you're being a good agent of privacy for their information.
Yeah, absolutely. Terrence, I have a couple questions for you. The first one's from Penny. Can you please show the address of where to send the letter?
Well, the letter, I don't have an example with me, but when the applicant receives a letter, there will be a address at the top right-hand corner. Okay, now the letter may not come specifically from the Chicago Passport Agency. It may come from another agency, but it's always in the top right-hand corner of what agency the application is at. And all the applicant has to do is submit the following documents that are requested and send it to that following agency. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Kim, do you have that address in that PowerPoint that you shared?
I do.
Okay,
I can put that back up again.
Yeah, if you want to stop sharing your screen, I'll put my screen up so that you can. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Okay, Terrence, another question for you. Do you know what percentage of libraries have started taking passports again? Do you have any idea based on what you're seeing out there?
In our region, I want to say it's pretty low, maybe 10 to 12%, if that. It's pretty low right now. A lot of facilities are just holding off right now, which is understood, and they have that, choice too. But I want to say around 10 to 12% maybe.
Okay, thank you. One more question from Michelle. How do we find out if we are too close to other agencies?
A simple way to resolve that is, I don't know if Kim, she should, and I can give it to you guys. I would recommend just emailing me at the
Mhm.
ppt-cg-esm@state.gov.
Okay.
That goes to our general mailbox. And if
Okay.
a facility is interested, then we have a list that we compose. We'll look at it, and we'll check to see what facilities are in the area, postal and libraries, and we go from there. So just mainly emailing us if they're interested, letting us know. Currently, like Kim stated, right now, we aren't looking to add any because we have well over 700 plus facilities. But definitely we encourage to still send your email information, and we'll look into it for you.
Yeah, and you know what, folks, I was guessing we are gonna get this question. We will, you know what we'll do is we'll send that email address out onto the reference email list. So make sure that you're subscribed to the Rails reference email list, and we'll make sure to we'll also include the address for the passport accepting facility that Kim just posted. Kim, I'm going to send that again because it looks like it just went to the panelists. So we'll put this information out there along with the recording to this networking event so that you can all see it. And please look there, because right now we don't obviously we don't have an email list for passport services. So Darren, thank you for that information. I appreciate it. I do want to acknowledge one question that was answered. So Jennifer says, my town is close to Iowa. If we became a passport facility and someone from Iowa came to get a passport, could they do that? I noticed that Iowa's covered in another regional office. And Lisa, thank you for Lisa for jumping in there. She says, yes, you can accept border state applications. Once you are an agency, you would be made aware of the needed information. Terrence, that's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Great, wonderful. This is an interesting question, and I'd be interested to hear, and Kim, I think you talked a little bit about this, but I'd be interested to hear what other libraries have answer that our passport acceptance facilities have to say about this. How many passports do you do on an average weekday or weekend? And Lisa says 0 to 25, typically more evenings and weekends, all pre-COVID as we haven't started again.
Yeah, when we were doing pre-COVID, we probably were doing 10 to 15 a day and probably 30 to 50 on a weekend. So 30 to 50 on a Saturday, 30 to 50 on a Sunday. Now, well, our numbers have started going up because we've been open probably now 6 weeks. We probably are doing 2 a day, and this past weekend we did 10. So as they're getting to know that we're open, they're coming back. I also want to address the question about the Iowa border. I hate, I'm gonna have to toot my own horn a little bit here. We have gotten so many good kudos on being a nice facility to come to that we've had families tell other families to come here. So I've had people come from Indiana, Michigan, Iowa to our facility to get their applications done because their family member said, oh, go to Prospect Heights. They're so nice. They'll take care of you. So they drove here to get their application. So just remember, passports are a federal requirement. So it doesn't matter what state you're in, you can get your application done wherever you are.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. And I'm going to go back here and address a question that was answered too. It was answered online. Excuse me, Julie and Terrence, thank you for answering this already. I just want to get it out there verbally. What is the answer, or sorry, what is the plan for training this year? Will they be offering in-person training? Terrence said they're working on a plan for training. Not sure if they're going to do in-person training right away. More likely to continue to do online training and probably virtual training as well. And then Julie asked a follow-up question. What date will the training need to be completed by? I think we usually aim to do our annual training by December 31st each year. Terrence, do you have an answer to that question?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. It'll need to be that day, the December 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Maggie, it looks like Maggie had that same question. Okay, Brittany asked, Terrence, this is a question for you. Are they still sending rejection letters? We sent an application to be a passport facility at the beginning of the year, but we never received an acceptance or rejection.
Well, at the moment, as I stated before, we're just accepting facilities right now. We're not ruling out down the line, adding more facilities. Just currently, there's several factors that we have to factor in, as Kim mentioned before, what facilities are in the area. If a facility needs to even be added to that area. So as I stated before, just, if you're still interested, send us an email, and we'll check our database and review the area and go from there. And we will respond and let you know, of course, but currently right now, we're just currently accepting right now. We're more focused on, honestly, with life or death passports that we accept at our agency and getting this backlog out right now. So.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. Also want to acknowledge that, Lisa just said that our agents self-select in Setmore. Setmore is, I believe, appointment registration software. I agree. It's very, she says, I agree with Kim. It's very important to be focused while taking applications. So yeah, thank you, Lisa. Absolutely. Anonymous asks, how are you handling any complaints from applicants due to delays in processing? Patrons used to get upset before COVID. I can't imagine now. Does any library have any? Kim, do you want to jump on that?
Yeah, to be quite honest, they're all very, very understanding. I haven't had a single person complain about it at all. I have had a couple people that will say, I applied back in February or March, and I am sharing with them that we did get a very recent newsletter from the Department of State that has updated, and I'd like to share that just a minute if I can. The newsletter, it did give us where they are in processing applications. So if you're an agency and didn't get a newsletter, please let us know. We'll have Terrence make sure that you're getting newsletters, because they are very, very valuable to have. So in this recent newsletter, it talks about their phasing opening and where they are as far as reopening to the public, and where they are as far as doing applications. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, yep, we can see it.
And then I just wanted to kind of quickly show, this is the thing that I find so interesting, and this is what I have shared with the public a little bit. So this is how many applications are currently in the system with the Department of State right now. They were at 1.5 million back in May. They're up to almost, well, they were in 2 million and they've come back down again. They're processing a lot of passports. So I kind of share this with people and let them know, they're working on the ones that they got back in March, April. So yours being done now in September is going to be, they keep saying to us, first in, first out, which makes total sense. I'm telling people right now, and Terrence, I would like a little bit of guidance on this. I've been kind of telling people, you might not see these till Christmas. So I hope you don't have vacation plans, because it could be quite a long time. So, and most of them are just like, no, I just want to get this off my list of things to do. I'm about to expire, or I want to try to do spring plans. So we haven't had anybody complaining. They're all very understanding. I think right now they understand this is a crazy time, and they're just grateful that we're here to take their applications.
Kim, I want to say thank you for, giving that information out. But to add to what you were saying, you were exactly right. Basically what we're doing is processing the oldest work. Okay, that's just the process that we're taking. We're starting with that. Routine work can be anywhere between more than 8 weeks per our travel.state.gov. So I highly recommend when you're talking to the applicants to just refer them to travel.state.gov. There's a lot of useful information. And also I would like to add also that we're updating the information every Thursday on our website. Okay, so they're continually to work on the website, so that's a plus. Currently right now we have, I want to say as of September 8th, we had 11 agencies that were in phase 2. We're currently at phase 1, and there's 15 agencies in phase 1. Okay, but the process will be delayed. We're still not accepting expedited because we're only working on life or deaths and the lockbox applications that we have in our agency. But we are definitely working really hard to get the backlog, to a current date. A lot of us, especially management, have been in the agency since June working on applications and life or death cases. So Definitely refer them. I highly recommend travel.state.gov is a useful tool and information.
Yeah.
And as well, you guys have our email address as well. So I'm always open to questions if you want to email me as well.
Thanks, Terrence. Really appreciate that. And Susan had an email or has had a message about working on backlogs, and I think that more or less answered it. So I appreciate that. Anonymous asks, when I contacted the post office, passport office, I was told we could be put on a waiting list.
Yes.
It's been 2 years. Does the list really exist?
Yes. Yes, the list definitely does exist. As I stated before, we have over 700 facilities. Some facilities we are working with. We do charts and graphs to try to figure out which ones are accepting applications, which ones have the most IRLs, suspended cases, which ones need more training. So we are trying to weed those out as opposed to add more stronger or keep the ones that are strong aboard. But it's a process. Trust me, it's definitely a process. But we do have the list. The list does exist. I would just highly recommend just continue to follow up with us.
Yeah. And I want to note here, Lisa, thank you for your, Lisa says, Chicago office employees are terrific at helping. So thank you, Terrence. And I think that will end it here today because we are almost out of time. But I really, really want to thank both Kim and Terrence for coming here, presenting, giving us a ton of information. I know a lot of you are wondering, what's going to happen. Nobody really knows. There's a lot of uncertainty out there on a million different fronts, including library and passport agencies out there. So,
hey Dan, before you let us go, since I have Terrence's undivided attention, I know a lot of libraries are doing curbside pickup. My director has been trying to convince us to do curbside passports, and I kind of told him I think that's a crazy idea. Would that be something that the passport agency would be okay with?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
Good, I like that. Very definitive.
As you stated before, Kim, it's we're very strict and serious with the PI, so we have to be mindful of that. So to answer your question, no, we want to stay away from that right now.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And last thing I want to note too is Jane, I saw your note about doing another one of these events for existing passport agencies to kind of talk about what they're doing. And yeah, that could definitely be something we do maybe later on this fall to kind of figure out what people are doing, because obviously this is an important issue, and I know that a lot of people have reached out to me about it. So what we'll do is we'll get that email list started as soon as we can, and then we'll reconnect probably in about a month and see where we are. And then, hopefully we'll have more information for everybody. So again, thank you so much to both of you. Thank you for everyone who attended. I really appreciate it. This event was recorded, and we'll have it up on our YouTube page probably later this afternoon. You'll all get an automatic email from Zoom about this. It'll have a link to the recorded webinar, and that will live on our YouTube page. So appreciate it. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and thanks again.
Thanks for organizing this, Dan.
Yeah. Have a good one, everyone.
All right.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.